Let's cut through the noise. You can be beautiful, intelligent, and successful. But if you make the wrong moves emotionally or mentally, your perceived value in a man's eyes can disappear in seconds. The truth is, men don't just respond to who you are. They respond to how you carry who you are. High-value men, the kind that women actually want, not the ones who just look good on paper, are constantly reading the energy you bring. They're not just watching what you say, but how you behave, how you react, and how you treat yourself. And there are certain habits that quietly but quickly kill your value, no matter how perfect you seem on the surface. If you want to stand out, if you want to be unforgettable, not just a temporary thrill, then you have to know what destroys that magnetic pull. Let's break down 6 things that do exactly that. One of the fastest ways to lower your value in front of a man is to constantly seek validation instead of respect. This is a trap many people fall into without realizing. It shows up as needing constant reassurance, fishing for compliments, or adjusting your opinions just to get agreement or approval. While it may seem harmless in the moment, it sends a very clear signal that your self-worth is based on his reaction, not your own internal certainty. High-value men aren't attracted to neediness. They're attracted to confidence. Confidence doesn't mean being loud or dominant. It means you have a solid relationship with yourself. When you know your own worth, you don't need constant reminders from someone else. You don't need to ask if he likes you 10 times or wonder if you're enough. You already believe you are, and that belief quietly commands respect. When you shift your focus from impressing to simply being present, the energy changes. You stop performing and start connecting. That's what high-caliber men respond to. They notice when a woman is centered, grounded, and unapologetic about who she is. It challenges them. It draws them in, because so few people truly operate from that place. The irony is that the more you try to get a man to validate you, the more he pulls away. But the less you need it, the more intrigued he becomes. Why? Because independence is rare. Emotional stability is rare. And a woman who carries herself like she doesn't need anything from him, yet chooses to be there, is incredibly magnetic. Respect lasts longer than attention, and self-validation is what earns that respect. When you stop seeking approval and start owning your space, you stop being someone he evaluates and become someone he values. Sharing your story, your emotions, and your past is part of building intimacy. But timing and boundaries matter. When you overshare too soon, especially in the early stages of getting to know a man, it often comes across as emotionally impulsive rather than genuine connection. It's a common mistake people make when they're eager to bond quickly or prove vulnerability. But instead, it can feel overwhelming and even inappropriate. Imagine meeting someone for the first or second time and suddenly hearing a full emotional download. Childhood trauma, toxic exes, personal insecurities, and everything in between. Even if it's honest, it can feel like too much too fast. High-value men are especially aware of this. They're not afraid of depth or real conversation, but they're paying close attention to how emotionally stable and self-aware you are. When you reveal too much too soon, it suggests a lack of emotional boundaries, and sometimes even a need for rescue or approval. There's a difference between being open and being exposed. Real openness is intentional. It's measured. It shows that you respect your own story enough to share it with people who've earned access to that level of trust. And that's attractive. A woman who knows how to pace emotional connection demonstrates maturity, self-control, and self-respect, all qualities that high-quality men gravitate toward. When you hold back just enough to allow trust to develop, naturally, you create a space where connection can grow over time. You allow curiosity to build. You let a man wonder about you, ask questions, and discover you gradually, which is far more engaging than putting everything on the table at once. Emotional pacing shows you value yourself. And when a man sees that you guard your vulnerability carefully, he's far more likely to handle it with care. Trying to impress a man rather than genuinely connecting with him is one of the most common ways people kill their own value without realizing it. When your energy is focused on performing, on being funny enough, pretty enough, smart enough, or accomplished enough, you shift the dynamic from mutual connection to one-sided audition. That imbalance is felt immediately, especially by high-value men who've seen it before. Impressing someone usually comes from a place of insecurity. You might think you're showcasing your strengths, but what you're actually signaling is that you don't believe your natural self is enough. Whether it's name-dropping, overselling your achievements, or trying to look perfect at all times, it creates pressure and inauthenticity. And nothing disconnects two people faster than the feeling that one of them is faking it to earn approval. Real connection is built on authenticity. The most magnetic people don't try too hard. They're relaxed in their own skin. They know their worth, and they allow others to discover it at their own pace. They show interest, ask thoughtful questions, and create space for a natural back and forth. That's what builds attraction and trust. Men who are confident and emotionally mature can sense when someone is trying too hard. And rather than being impressed, they become guarded. They wonder what's being hidden behind all the performance. Are you really that confident, or are you just playing a role? That doubt pushes them away. What holds true value is presence. Being real, being grounded, being genuinely interested in who he is, rather than obsessed with how you're being perceived. When you stop performing and start connecting, everything changes. The right man doesn't want to be impressed. He wants to feel seen. And when you offer him that, your value speaks for itself. Tolerating bad behavior, whether it's disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional neglect, is one of the fastest ways to lower your value in a man's eyes. Every time you let something slide that goes against your standards or values, you silently teach him how to treat you. And over time, that treatment becomes the new normal. Not because he's evil or manipulative, but because you allowed it. Men, especially high-value ones, pay attention to boundaries, even if they never say it out loud. They're constantly noticing what you accept and what you reject. If you stay silent when something crosses the line, you're signaling that your boundaries are flexible, or worse, non-existent. That doesn't inspire respect. It inspires convenience. You go from being someone he values to someone who's just easy to get away with things around. There's a big difference between being understanding and being a doormat. Being compassionate doesn't mean tolerating repeated disrespect. Being patient doesn't mean ignoring red flags. The moment you choose peace over self-respect is the moment you begin shrinking in his eyes. And once that dynamic sets in, it's extremely hard to reverse. What men truly admire are women who know their standards and stick to them, not with drama or threats, but with calm certainty. A woman who's not afraid to walk away when she's being treated poorly holds incredible power. She communicates that her time, energy, and presence are valuable, and not everyone gets unlimited access to it. High-value men don't want someone who lets them get away with anything. They want someone who keeps them accountable, not out of control, but out of love and self-respect. When you stop tolerating what doesn't align with your worth, you stop being an option and start becoming the standard. And that shift is everything. Playing. Emotional games might feel like a way to gain control, spark attention, or protect yourself from getting hurt. But in reality, it quietly damages your value in a man's eyes. Whether it's making him jealous on purpose, going silent to punish him, or using manipulation to get a reaction, these tactics reveal emotional immaturity. And high-quality men can sense it immediately. At first, it might seem to work. Maybe he chases a little more when you pull away. Maybe he reacts when you flirt with someone else to test him. But this attention isn't rooted in real connection or respect. It's a response to confusion, not desire. Over time, the more you rely on emotional manipulation, the less solid the foundation becomes. It creates doubt, insecurity, and eventually, resentment. Men who are serious about relationships are looking for emotional clarity, not chaos. They want someone who knows how to communicate directly, not someone who keeps them guessing. Games might excite a man temporarily, but they never build trust. And without trust, nothing long-lasting can grow. When a man starts feeling like he's being tested, controlled, or emotionally baited, he'll begin to pull away. Not because he's afraid of feelings, but because he sees the lack of honesty behind the behavior. True power in relationships doesn't come from controlling the other person. It comes from mastering your own emotions. Being able to speak up when something bothers you, set boundaries calmly, and express your needs without manipulation shows real strength. That's what high-value men respect and respond to. When you replace games with genuine communication, you set yourself apart. You become a woman who is both emotionally intelligent and self-aware. And that kind of woman is rare, valuable, and unforgettable, not because she plays hard to get, but because she knows she doesn't have to play at all. Losing your identity in a relationship is one of the most subtle, yet destructive ways to kill your value in a man's eyes. At first, it might come from a good place. You're excited, you care deeply, and you want to give your best. But slowly, your own interests, routines, and goals begin to fade as you center everything around him. And without realizing it, the vibrant, independent person he was first attracted to starts disappearing. When your world begins to revolve entirely around a man, the energy shifts. You become overly available, overly accommodating, and eventually, predictable. You cancel plans with friends, stop doing things that made you feel alive, and constantly adjust to fit into his life. What once felt like a balanced partnership begins to feel like emotional dependence. And that dependence is not attractive. It creates pressure, not connection. High-value men are drawn to women who have full lives of their own. They admire women who are passionate, focused, and unapologetically committed to their own path. When you have a clear identity outside of the relationship, it keeps the dynamic healthy. It allows space for mystery, respect, and long-term attraction. On the other hand, when you give up your independence to prioritize him entirely, it often leads to emotional burnout, resentment, and a loss of self-worth. And eventually, he starts to feel suffocated, not because you're too much, but because you stopped being you. Maintaining your identity doesn't mean being distant or selfish. It means staying rooted in who you are, continuing to grow, and never letting someone else define your value. The strongest relationships are built between two whole people, not one who slowly disappears into the other. When you protect your individuality, you protect your attraction. And that's what keeps him truly interested for the long run. Attraction isn't just about what you offer, it's about what you withhold. Your standards, your boundaries, your sense of self. These are your value. Lose them, and you lose the magnetic pull. Keep them strong, and the right man won't just notice, you'll make him rise to your level. Because in the end, real value never chases, it chooses.